Come and cruise around in a short with Hawkeye and Jeanne, low riding to all kinds of places to determine what is really going on during the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is what Hawkeye's Tales and Trails is all about. I am hard-charging pagan women warrior queen, Califia, the hostess of Hawkeye's Tales and Trails. Episode 123 is another Hispanic Heritage Month history lesson about America. Episode 120 was about my favorite Hispanic, me, Califia. Please note that all information is deemed to be correct. Who knows if it is really correct? Okay, estúpida gilipollas. Pachucos and Pachucas were members of a counterculture associated with zoot suit fashion, jazz and swing music, a distinct dialect known as Calo, and self-empowerment in rejecting assimilation into Anglo-American society that emerged in El Paso, Texas in the late 1930s. The Pachuco counterculture flourished among Chicano boys and men in the 1940s as a symbol of rebellion, especially in Los Angeles. It spread to women who became known as Pachucas and were perceived as unruly, masculine, and un-American. Some Pachucos adopted strong attitudes of social defiance, engaging in behavior seen as deviant by white Anglo-American society, such as marijuana smoking, gang activity, and a turbulent nightlife. Although concentrated among a relatively small group of Mexican Americans, the Pachuco counterculture became iconic among Chicanos and a predecessor for the Cholo subculture which emerged among Chicano youth in the 1980s. Pachucos emerged in El Paso, Texas, among a group of Chicano youth who were influenced by African American culture and urban hepcats, although it may have roots in Pachuca, Hidalgo, Mexico, where loose-fitting clothing was popular among men. It later spread throughout the Southwest into Los Angeles, where it developed further. Pachuco zoot suiters were influenced by black zoot suiters in the jazz and swing music scene on the East Coast. In LA, Chicano zoot suiters developed their own cultural identity, with their hair done in big pompadours, and draped in tailor-made suits. They spoke Calo, their own language, a cool jive of half English, half Spanish rhythms. Out of the zoot suiter experience came lowrider cars and culture, clothes, music, tag names, and, again, its own graffiti language. Pachucos were perceived as alien to both Mexican and Anglo-American culture, a distinctly Chicano figure. In Mexico, the Pachuco was understood as a caricature of the American, while in the United States they were perceived as so-called proof of Mexican degeneracy. To Chicanos, the Pachuco had acquired and emanated self-empowerment and agency through a stylized power of rebellious resistance and spectacular excess. Pachuco was not a gang. However, Pachucos were gang members. The etymology of the word Pachuco is unclear. However, it refers to a particular style of Hispanic gang life involving zoot suits and flamboyant public appearances. The Pachuco subculture declined in the 1960s and 70s and was gradually replaced by the Chicano movement. Gang members exchanged fancy suits for t-shirts and khakis. Modern-day Hispanic gang members are usually called cholos or vatos. The Pachuco cross tattoo is an old Mexican and Chicano tattoo. It is not known when the Pachuco cross was first created. It's most often a symbol of protection and may signify being part of a gang or group. It's not just for men, though. Plenty of women have been known to get it too. According to YouTuber Pachuco Sam from Houston, Texas, the cross was originally a symbol of holy divinity and protection. The Zoot Suit riots were a series of riots that took place from June 3 to the 8th, 1943 in Los Angeles, California, United States, involving American servicemen stationed in Southern California and young Latino and Mexican American city residents. It was one of the dozen wartime industrial cities that suffered race-related riots in the summer of 1943, along with Mobile, Alabama, Beaumont, Texas, Detroit, Michigan, and New York City. American servicemen and white Angelenos attacked and stripped children, teenagers, and youths who wore zoot suits, ostensibly because they considered the outfits, which were made from large amounts of fabric, to be unpatriotic during World War II. Rationing of fabrics and certain foods was required at the time for the war effort. While most of the violence was directed toward Mexican American youth, African American and Filipino American youths who were wearing zoot suits were also attacked. The Zoot Suit riots were related to fears and hostilities aroused by the coverage of the Sleepy Lagoon murder trial, following the killing of a young Latino man in what was then an unincorporated commercial area near Los Angeles. The riot appeared to trigger similar attacks that year against Latinos in Chicago, San Diego, Oakland, Evansville, Philadelphia, and New York City. The defiance of Zoot Suiters became inspirational for Chicanos during the Chicano movement. Chicano or Chicana is a chosen identity for many Mexican Americans in the United States. The label Chicano is sometimes used interchangeably with Mexican American, although the terms have different meanings. While Mexican American identity was related to encouraging assimilation into white American society and separating the community from the African American political struggle, Chicano identity emerged among anti-assimilationist youth. Some belonged to the Pachuco subculture and claimed the term, which had previously been a classist and racist slur. The term Chicano was widely reclaimed by ethnic Mexicans in the 1960s and 1970s to express political empowerment, ethnic solidarity, and pride in being of indigenous descent, with many using the Nahuatl language, diverging from the more assimilationist Mexican-American term. Chicano movement leaders collaborated with Black Power movement. Chicano youth in barrios rejected cultural assimilation into whiteness and embraced their identity and worldview as a form of empowerment and resistance. The Chicano art movement represents groundbreaking movements by Mexican American artists to establish a unique artistic identity in the United States. Much of the art and the artists creating Chicano art were heavily influenced by Chicano movement, El Movimiento, which began in the 1960s. Chicano art was influenced by post-Mexican Revolution ideologies, pre-Columbian art, European painting techniques, and Mexican-American social, political, and cultural issues. The movement worked to resist and challenge dominant social norms and stereotypes for cultural autonomy and self-determination. Some issues the movement focused on were awareness of collective history and culture, restoration of land grants, and equal opportunity for social mobility. Women used ideologies from the feminist movement to highlight the struggles of women within the Chicano art movement. Throughout the movement and beyond, Chicanos have used art to express their cultural values, as protest or for aesthetic value. The art has evolved over time to not only illustrate current struggles and social issues, but also to continue to inform Chicano youth and unify around their culture and histories. Chicano art is not just Mexican-American artwork, it is a public forum that emphasizes otherwise invisible histories and people in a unique form of American art. The Cheece Marin Center for Chicano Art and Culture. A public-private partnership between Riverside Art Museum, the City of Riverside, and comedian Cheece Marin, one of the world's foremost collectors of Chicano art. The Cheece will be the center of Chicano art, not only for painting, but for sculpture, photography, and video arts.
Soon about to be open here in Riverside, California, the very first Chicano, exclusively Chicano museum in the world. And so we're really more than honored to be here today and start this process. In comparison, this is a very short time to the process that it happened, during the course of having this collection, during this collection. I remember when I first decided, like, I have a big enough collection to tour, and then all my friends in the art world kind of urged me to do that. I said, well, how do you do that? Get the documents and get the stuff there. I thought we were just discussing San Antonio, and from the time it was, we thought of the idea and started putting it in motion to the time that LA County Museum of Art joined on, that was 10 years. You know, that was going in the corporate boardroom in America, General Motors, General Mills, anything with a general in it. We almost did it with the Army. Yeah, the Army is the number one hirer of Chicanos.
Prepárate! Let me see you jump! Prepárate! Get ready! Get
Just north of the Cheece Center of Chicano art and culture, there is another unique art attraction in downtown Riverside. Tio's Tacos is another form of magnificent Mexican art. Artist, Martin Sanchez, was an immigrant from Michoacan. As a young man and coming from a poor country, it gave him the idea to find a use for discarded items. What most people considered trash, Martin saw as treasure. With Martin's ingenuity and creativity, he has rescued junk and give them new life. When in downtown Riverside, stop by and enjoyed this garden, created entirely from recycled items, waste material, and junk. Come for the taco, stay for the art. The 1-acre lot mostly contain recycled, stuff for art. The taco stand did not rate very high on Jeanne's restaurant ratings. Thank you very much for watching Hawkeye's videos. We hope that they are yada yada yada. I am tired and want to go home. The videos are unscripted documentaries of Hawkeye and Jeanne's travels. It is our recommendation that if you are new to Hawkeye's Tales and Trails, start with episode 1. I am hard-charging women, pagan warrior queen, Califia. Blue skies forever and catch you on down the road. Hasta la vista, babies. Fabulous. Why, thank you. Yes, I drink. Somewhat interesting.